Okay, I'm going to make another video on using the Bezier tool to trace out objects and cars, whatever it is you're wanting to trace out. I've done a couple before, but the previous ones I did was like a cartoon truck and then one of a cut piece that someone was wanting traced out. So this is an actual car. I'm going to trace it with the Bezier tool. I'm not going to do this all the way to completion because, I mean, a design like this I could spend an hour or two on, so I'm just going to get the basics, trace out the contour, highlight a few inner details, and from that point you should have a pretty good concept of how to finish the design up yourself or a similar design and go from there. So I've brought this image in. I'm going to go over here and select my Bezier tool, and then you just come down and pick a spot on this anywhere. I usually start somewhere on the bottom. This image is kind of tricky here because you see this stuff down here on the bottom, but that appears to be actually a reflection off of this floor. So I'm going to not get this stuff here. This is reflecting off the tile there. But anyway, you pick a spot on the bottom and start a point just by clicking. And then you're going to want to go around. It looks like this comes up to here. And you're just going to want to work your way around this design and drop points by left clicking with your mouse everywhere on this design that you have a direction change. You'll kind of get a feel for it after you've done it a few times, you know, how many points you need to make the curves you're needing. On something like this, on the tires, I see a lot of people cut them. If I trace this exactly as it is, this tire's flat, you know, due to gravity sitting on the ground, but that it just looks, when it's cut as a standalone, looks kind of weird because it looks like it has flat tires. So I always drop just a little below the actual tire and drop a point, and then I'll show you later, I'll round that off and it'll look, you know, more like a tire without flat spots. So you just continue to work your way around, dropping points on this. Drop one here, 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 here. And sometimes you'll have to, you know, on this it's pretty clear, I can see where I'm at. Sometimes you'll have to zoom in and out to make sure you're capturing a detail on the actual vehicle and not something that's in the background. Like there, you kind of almost missed that door hinge there. But you continue working your way around, dropping points on here. This gets a little tricky, but you can make out the details when you really look. Yeah, maybe drop one here. Here. If you get too many points, you can always, you know, remove a few of them later too. It's not critical that you, I try to put minimal amount, but you might end up deciding when you're done that you have a few too many points, and you can always reduce those when you're finished with it, so there's nothing to worry over. And I'll just continue working my way around, dropping points on here with the Bezier, and when you're finished, you make it back around to where you started. You hover your Bezier over the start point, and you can see it'll highlight there, and you just click it, and that'll close your path. You now have a closed path for your outer contour there. Now, as you can tell, it's kind of hard to see, especially in some of these dark areas. It's kind of hard to see your path, so you're going to want to change your stroke color by selecting it. You come down, hold shift, and pick a color. I usually almost always use this green here, this lime, or this red, because they really stand out. On a red vehicle, I'm going to use the lime color. As you can see, that gives me a really bright stroke, and I can really tell what I'm doing. So then I will start going around and left clicking on these lines and pulling them around to more closely match the actual contour of this vehicle. Sometimes, like here too, as you can see, I'm not quite catching the contour. I could either just grab this by left clicking it and dragging it back until it matches up, or depending on the contour, I might want to just double click on that line and add an extra node there to follow that a little better. But you just keep working your way around. Grab these paths by left clicking and just pulling them down where you need. Then like this, I want this to be smooth. I don't want a jagged or, you know, a point here. I'll select this node by left clicking and dragging the box around it. Come up here, hit make selected nodes smooth, and that'll smooth that out to a nice smooth contour. And as I mentioned before, like down here, I'm not perfectly following the bottom of that tire because I don't want it to look flat. So I take a little creative liberty and make that a nice rounded looking tire. And work my way around, smoothing nodes, pulling these lines down where I need them. Smooth them out. And you're just going to work your way around the design doing this on the whole design. Now there's two ways on lines like this. You know, when you click this, it's just two nodes. You can move a path by adjusting the handles or by left clicking on the path and pulling it. As you can see, I'm gonna hit Control Z. Before I did that, these nodes have no handles. They're just perfectly straight line. So to get to the handles, you'll have to left click and pull this out. Now you have handles, and you can fine tune that if you want with those handles. Pull that around where you need it. So I'll just keep working my way around, adjusting these until my entire contour matches up with the vehicle. Spots like this too, depending on the size you're cutting it, this may be a little tight for the torch to go through, but you can come back around when you're done and make adjustments. You might even just end this right here rather than have it go down there if that spot's too tight. But you can come around and fine tune stuff like that when you're completely done with the design. So you're just going to work your way around, adjust these, pull them where you need them, smooth them. That could probably just stay straight. This curves here. There's a hinge on that door. Pull this around. Some of this stuff too, if you get, you know, this is kind of a grainy image. It's not probably the greatest quality. If it's a little hard to see your contour, you can always go to your stroke menu, which will be under Object, Fill and Stroke, and that will open up this over here. Then you can select stroke style, and usually it's always defaulted in millimeters. You can click this minus a couple times, and as you can see, that'll thin that stroke out, and then I can kind of see a little better here where I'm trying to hit that contour. So you can always thin the stroke down a little if it's too big and too obtrusive and you can't really see what you're doing. So I'll just continue to adjust these all the way around. Smooth these out. Any node like these that's in the middle of a curve, I always make sure those are smooth. That way there's no little angle, you know, notch in that cut. Anything that's like this, that's in a corner where you want to make a sharp contour, I don't smooth those, I just leave those. So I'll continue working my way around, adjusting these, smoothing them out, and as you can see, it's slowly forming into the shape of our vehicle here. And the nice part about doing this versus a trace bitmap is if I trace bitmap this image wouldn't trace very well, but if I did, at best it would be sloppy. There would be a lot of nodes. You'd have to go around and spend a lot of time cleaning it up if you wanted a really nice cut. The nice part with using the Bezier tool is it takes a little longer to get your shape traced out, but when you're done, you have a really nice clean contour with minimal nodes. So there is a payoff to taking the extra time to work your way around this and trace it out. Okay, so that is the outer contour of my vehicle. That's complete. You know, now if I would apply a fill color here, like say black, I got rid of my background, my vehicle's completely traced out. So now what you'll want to do is just work your way around this and add details. For the purpose of this, on a vehicle like this, I'll use a mix of closed paths and open lines. You know, because a lot of details you don't really need a closed path to catch the details you need, like these body lines. An open line will accent that. It'll look good. You don't have to, you know, draw out a closed path. It'll just make a single line cut. So then I'll go around with my Bezier, click and drop points just like I did on the outer contour. And when you get to the end on an open line, you can just right click and that'll end it. And I'll go around and adjust those to match these inner details. Smooth these out, leave the ends, and work my way around this design. Then I will change these to by holding shift and, you know, make those the green color that I'm using. That way they really stand out and I can see what I'm doing. If at any point I want to see how things are coming together, I can click on my outer contour, add a fill color, and as I work my way around, I can see it starting to come to life. So I just work my way around this design, adding these open paths, and start accenting all the body lines of this vehicle. Like here, I could bring this all the way down, but I don't want spots that come too closely together. Maybe I want to bring it down a little closer. Pull this handle up. But I want, you know, some material here between these cuts. I don't want them running together and burning through. So then I can add another one here. And I'm just going to work my way around this design, adding these accents anywhere I need them. Now something I'll probably do too, before I get too far into this, something I normally do is I want to design this for whatever cut size I'm designing it for. I want to make sure I don't have burn through and that it'll be a solid cut. So on a vehicle like this, I usually minimum shoot for, you know, 15, 18 inch cut. So I come up here and select inches, and I'll highlight this, hold control. I just drug a box around everything, hold control, grab one of these corners, and I'll adjust the size of this up. And then once I've adjusted, I can highlight just my contour there and see I'm at about 13 inches. So I'm going to go a little bigger. And there I have about 15.4, so that's close enough that I could probably make a decent cut file out of this if I wanted to cut it at 15 inches. So now something I'll do, I'm going to select this outer contour. I'm going to put that in inches. And I'm going to set this back to the default, which is usually 10 thousandths, just to make that a little thicker and stand out. And these actually, since I scaled up, it's changed the stroke style, see, to 21 thousandths. I'll put that back to 10 thousandths, so everything's the same. But a little guide I'll do, because I want to add like an accent here with an open path, so I don't want to come too close to this edge and have a burn through. If I select my outer contour, now that I have this close to the cut size I want, I can hit Control D and duplicate that. You can't see it, but it made a duplicate. Now if I hold Shift and select blue, that'll change that stroke to blue. Then I would page it down. My page down is not working at the moment. There we go. Page it down. And while it's still selected, I'm going to set that stroke at 1/4 inch. I might not be selected. Let me try that again. Oh. Okay, my stroke disappeared for some reason. I'm going to Control D that again. Change it to blue. Page it down one level, It's still selected. You can see down here that I have the blue path selected. Now I'm going to change that to 1/4 inch. And oh, you know what happened? I paged that all the way to the bottom. Let me page. There we go. There it is. So now I have that outer contour duplicated, and I set a 1/4 inch stroke. And what that does is gives me an 1/8 inch inside and an 1/8 inch outside. I'm not really concerned with the outside, but on the inside I want to make sure that none of my details come closer than an 1/8 inch to the edge. That way I know I have a solid cut. So I will leave that blue outline like that until I'm completely done, and then I'll just delete it because I won't need it anymore. But I use that as a guide while I'm going around now. I don't have to worry when I add this hood line if I'm too close to the edge. So I can just click in here and add that stroke, change the color, and I can go around and work and add my details and not have to worry about coming back and checking that spacing later. And see, it'll help me on things like this headlight. I'm gonna wanna, I might add a more detailed light later, but just to get the idea of the headlight in there, you could just leave it like this, but you know, I'm gonna want a round cut. But here I can see that I'm not gonna get too close to the edge. Then I can Control D, pull that over here, make it a little bigger because this one's close to us. I might stretch that just a hair and start adding those details in, but I don't have to worry about getting too close to these edges over here. You know, places that you are going to run into, maybe I want to add a little accent for this chrome and add a stroke here. To highlight around this headlight. Now here on this side, I know I'm not too close to the edge, but between these two, I don't want any closer than 1/8 inch either. So what I would do there is I would draw a circle by holding Control. If I hold Shift, I can turn my stroke off. And now I'm set to inches. If I lock my ratio and make that 0.125 for an 1/8 inch, oops, sorry, I hit an extra key. Now I can bring this circle in here between these two details and make sure that I'm not too close. Probably best if you change the color of the circle too. But I can see there that I'm not too close to my headlight where I'm going to burn through. So anywhere you're curious on details being too close, you can use that as a guide to make sure you're not going to burn through. So anyway, I will continue working my way around this. Anywhere that I want to accent body lines, I can come down, click those, change my color, and start laying in these extra details. I work my way around this. Here, I might add, yeah, maybe a piece here. Could continue this line all the way down, but I don't like to make lines that are too long without a break in them. Otherwise your piece could get weak and flimsy, and we don't want that, obviously. So I would work my way around this design, highlighting these body lines with open paths. And you could do them with closed paths, but then you have to have, the design might have to be a little bigger to allow for lead-ins and, you know, ample space for the details to cut. So these open lines come in really handy for accenting body lines without having to cut a huge piece or make really big open contours that don't look good. So I would just work my way around, and like I say, on these open paths, you draw that line on there. Let's see, on the windshield, say I'm gonna come over here, here, here. Now I wouldn't leave this windshield like this. This is how I'll initially draw it. When you get to the end, you can right click and that will end your open line. what I'll do too, like on this windshield, I'll draw the whole thing. Then I'll hold shift, change the color. But then I will come in, because I don't want this huge piece of metal here held on just by the sides. So I'll either come in here and break it at both corners, or maybe add at least a break here in the middle. And what you can do to do that is, when you're in node editing mode, you can just double click anywhere on these lines and select this here, delete segment between two non-endpoints, and that will remove that piece of the line. That way you'll have a break in that cut, so that the whole piece isn't just held on by this one side over here, you know. Typically I probably would break it at each corner, but I just did that for a quick example. So just keep working your way around, adding these body lines in. You know, in some places you might want to use closed paths, like on the rims. I would probably trace out these openings of the rims to add a little more detail. So you're not gonna want to use open lines probably on the whole design. You could if you wanted, but you keep working your way around, adding whatever details you want. When you get to the end too, you can hit enter. That will end it, or right click. Either one will end your stroke there. So I'm not gonna, like I say, completely do this design. This could take forever to really go around and 100% complete it, but sometimes too you're gonna have to take a little creative liberty. Like here, I can't really see that door line very well, but I can tell that it would be right in here. I can kind of see there a little bit where that door line might be, so I'm gonna have to just wing it and add that line in there and hope that a true car guru doesn't call me out on it being just slightly off. So you're gonna go around, accent anything you want to accent. Like I say, I'm always changing the colors of these lines, and that's very simple by just holding shift and selecting whatever color you want. Holding shift selects stroke. If you don't hold shift, it selects your fill color. So we'll just work our way around. I just want to get enough here to where I'm done. You can get an idea. Actually, I'm gonna leave that out. See, like that mirror, for example, is probably one that I would trace that out and cut that as a closed path, so I'm not going to go around it with a stroke. Going around, I'm smoothing these out like I said before. And you're going to want to trace out your wheels, you know, your rims. I generally will try to hit like the edge of the rim for an accent. Like say on this design, I'll probably do closed paths on the wheels, but just for an idea, I'm gonna throw these open lines on the edge of the rim there. That just kind of helps accent and highlight where the rim is versus the tire ending. And like I say, you can do the entire design in open lines if you wanted, and they don't look bad, but I like kind of a mix of open and closed paths to really make a good looking design. Okay, I think that's probably enough to get the point. So now I'm going to change these color just for an example here. I'll make them green. Nope. Make them green with fill. Now if I select my outside contour and change it to black, as you can see, my car is starting to come to life there. So that's how you will go around with the Bezier tool and trace out a design and, you know, end up with your cut file. When you're done with this, okay, I've reached a point. I'm going to turn the fill back off. I've reached a point, say that I'm done. I'm not, but if I were done, I would select this blue contour that I made before and hit backspace and get rid of that. You're not going to need that. I'm going to page this down too, because I think I might have one hiding. Yep, that's the one, the first one I did that I thought disappeared. So I'm going to delete those. I don't need those anymore. Now the way I do it when I'm completely finished is any closed paths that I have, I will select those and path union. Then I will page those all the way up, select the outside contour, and path difference. That's differencing those closed paths out from the main contour. So now if I were to turn the fill on, you can see those are cut out. But my open paths are still just laying there. So I'm going to hit Control Z. And now if I'm completely done, I would take and select my background and delete it. Now I would select everything. I would change my stroke back to black. I always use black when I'm finished. And now I've selected everything. I just simply hit Path, Combine, and that would be ready to send to the plasma and cut if the design were finished. The only thing left to do for me, and it's just probably OCD, is I go to my document settings, document properties, hit resize page to content with the path selected, and then hit this drop down. You'll get resize page to drawing or selection. Click that, and that will resize your document property to match your path. It's not really 100% necessary, but what's nice is now this is zeroed on the X and Y axis of the drawing. So when you convert it to a DXF, it's zeroed on your X and Y. When you open it up in CAD, it's where it should be instead of way off to the side or, you know, whatever. So now you can save this as a SVG or DXF and send it to your cutter to cut. Hopefully that helps some people out. Hopefully maybe I touched on a few things I didn't in my last video on the Bezier tool. Thanks for watching.